Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Dan from Rebellious Noise, and I am here joined today by Scott and Lucas. And we are without Rob today, but we are going to be covering WWE Payback 2020. Now, you may recall on the SummerSlam recap, we did say that we weren't going to do predictions for this one, but we had a little change of plan. We actually texted our predictions across to each other, so there was no funny shenanigans going on. So it has been like adjudicated by us. We know what's going on. So we have done predictions on it.
But don't
We
worry,
will,
guys, you haven't missed the video, so don't be like, "What? That didn't pop up."
yeah.
We didn't
So
do the video part.
yeah, there's no video, but we did text the predictions to each other. And the first match that we predicted was the match in the kickoff show, and that featured the newly reformed, I guess, Riott squad
Mm.
of Ruby Riott and Liv Morgan taking on the IIconics, friends of the channel who me and Scott spoke to back in May. So, yeah, obviously all three of us on here correctly predicted that the Riott squad are going to win. Rob obviously knew it was going to be a bad start, so didn't bother showing up today. Obviously didn't pick Riott squad. He picked the IIconics. Did you manage to catch any of this match on the pre-show, boys?
I saw a bit of it as always. This is my cooking period, but yeah, from what I saw, it was a decent pre-show match. I liked them kind of the Iconics kind of playing up to the possible friction between the Riot Squad early in the match. Like it didn't just lead to the finish; they kind of did it early on. Um, and yeah, and then the Riot Squad. I was going to say retaining. They didn't retain anything but their friendship, really. But they're retaining their friendship and really, really trying to drive home that point to the commentators. So I'm not sure if that is because it's to make you kind of get into a full sense of security and they are going to break up again. But I don't know. Whatever they're doing with them, we'll see. I don't think a breakup or kind of a feud against each other is the right way to go. So hopefully it just kind of just ends up being a team for a while.
Well, they're going to need fodder for what we're going to get to later for the women's tag team champions. And I think that they're doing this story with tag teams not getting along with like every tag team now. It seems like, I mean, AEW have gone like we've got. I think literally AEW have gone. We've got all the tag teams in the world. And they all they all love each other and want to be friends. And WWE have gone like screw that. All our tag teams hate each other and want to split up because you've got Lucha House Party arguing because now Kalisto's back. You know, obviously the New Day have now gone their kind of separate ways. Well, one's injured, well, both two injured.
Yeah.
And you got the Sasha and Bayley thing. Then you got the Nia and Shayna doing the whole kind of partner getting along thing. It is kind of wearing a bit thin. So I do think that they do need. We're going to have to discuss the women's tag division, I guess, in more detail when that match comes up. But they do need to start getting these divisions back, these teams back together. It's a shame that the Iconics just, I don't believe they won a match in about 2 years now, it feels like. But I think it's a shame that they've had to go this way with them. But I think it's good that the Riot Squad are back. So it's one of those bittersweet things for me because I'm like, I've always felt the Riot Squad were kind of quite underused before. And obviously they got overshadowed by, particularly Ruby Riott got overshadowed by obviously Ronda Rousey's dominance on Raw during her title reign. And the Riot Squad could have been used much better, I felt. And obviously shame that obviously Sarah Logan not able to be a part of that, well, for the foreseeable really, because she's pregnant, which is obviously great. But obviously I think, the percentage of the match though, like, it was much better than I thought it'd be. And it was interesting seeing a women's tag match on a pre-show. I think that might be a first. I'm not too sure.
It did feel a little different. Yeah, so you might be right.
The whole pay-per-view as a whole, though, I think felt very different from last week, which I guess is good, But yeah, overall, can't really complain. And the one the prediction points, so that's all good.
Always good
good.
stuff.
That's the one that finally took you into double figures, mate. So well done. But yeah, it was as you were saying though, the whole thing about like it being like the first time where it's obviously been like a women's tag match potentially on a pre-show. It's just one of those like strange things where it's like you know, this show just felt like a load of like first time stuff, a lot of first time stuff. Like, I think it may be like one of the first times where they've had like a week build for a pay-per-view, but it does show how well they built a pay-per-view in a week.
Yeah.
Where I felt they built this better in a week than they did SummerSlam in 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think it highlights the good and the bad of the company, don't it? Like that they shouldn't be doing stuff like this. It's ridiculous, but they can pull it off, you know. And then, but like you say, then it shows on the bigger ones would have had more time, and they haven't pulled it off. So really weird.
And it shows as well, like this show went just over 2 hours, whereas like an episode of Raw goes 3 hours. You know, we've mentioned it on here like before, where, you know, sometimes Raw is just far too long and just dragged, whereas, you know, you put this show on, it's like it didn't feel like a 2 hour show. I felt it flowed really nice. The matches all had like a decent amount of time for the guys and girls to showcase, you know, what they can do. You know, and I thought this was a very good kickoff match, you know. Obviously nice to see the Riott Squad coming out victorious. You know, and I just hope that they, you know, stick to that, because it looked like they were going to do something with Liv, and then they kind of just didn't know what they wanted to do with her. So it's like, put her back with Ruby, you know, let them have like the Riott Squad go on like a bit of a tear. So I really did used to like them when they were like the three members in the group. And I thought that they should have had like a big like tag team title run, but, you know, it didn't obviously seem like it came to fruition much. And, you know, I'd like to see him go on a bit of a run, you know, win the women's tag titles potentially, and then, you know, as they always do, we'll probably end up splitting up. But there we go. So yeah, so now we move into the main show, where we have the first of 3 championship matches. And just before this, I was doing a little bit of research, and, you know, I spoke to our resident statistician, Mr. Lucas Jackson, and we have worked out that this is the first pay-per-view since 2009 where every single championship that was defended has changed hands.
What? So 11 years?
Yeah, Backlash 2009,
Wow.
and then before that was SummerSlam 2000.
Survivor Series.
Survivor Series 2002
Wow, look at that.
was before
There
that.
are caveats to this, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
To this, I must say, I've done obviously some research on this, and the Backlash 2009 had 3 championships on the line. However, Santina Marella defended successfully her Miss WrestleMania title,
Right.
which must be caveated as it is stated as a title defense. It was a
So
crown that was won and was therefore defended. But
Okay,
if you
yeah.
count just WWE lineage belts and championships, Backlash 2009 had 3 championship matches that all ended with the new champions. And Survivor Series 2002 is the last time that 5 championships changed hands out of 6. One wasn't defended, and that was the World Tag Team titles, with Chris Jericho, who was half the tag champion, was in the first ever Elimination Chamber match. But yes, this is the first time in 11 years that all defended championships have changed hands. Which
That's
is
a weird stat. Look what happens when you two can work together on your stats. Eh? It's beautiful.
I know, right?
Oh, well, yeah.
For those wondering, WrestleMania 2000 has the most championship changes of any pay-per-view in the history of WWE, with 13 title changes, 10 of them for the Hardcore Championship, of course.
Oh, God, I was going to say they weren't 13 titles, were they?
The most amount of titles that changed were during that pay-per-view. And
that was the hot potato era.
Yeah, WrestleMania 6 was the first complete clean sweep, with all the 3 main titles, the World, IC, and Tag, all changing hands. Those were much simpler times back then. Much simpler times.
So yeah, that's
a stat for you.
mind blown.
Beautiful.
But yeah, so we go on to the first match, which was the United States Championship. Apollo Crews defending against Bobby Lashley. Now, I predicted Apollo Crews will retain the championship, much like I predicted that he would, and successfully did at SummerSlam. You two and Rob all correctly predicted that Bobby Lashley was going to come out as the new United States champion.
Yeah, weirdly enough, I think this might have been some of the most enjoyable stuff on the show. I really, really liked this match. As soon as the Hurt Business come out in their suits, I was just like, oh, they need the title. They need the title. Look at them, like they're doing really good things with the Hurt Business. And we've been saying it, for months now on other predictions and recaps that they need this title. Surely it's going to go there eventually. But just like we've been saying as well with Cruz, he's been doing really, really well. And through this match, it was a great match. I just felt like, oh no, what's he going to do now that he's lost it? So obviously, Dan, you were alluding to last time round that maybe he'll end up joining the group and stuff like that, which will be good because I just want him kept in a fold. I want him around, or just kept as the kind of good guy against them, because I think he's done so well. He's been underutilized for years, and this US title run, I think, has given, weirdly enough, some prestige to that championship, and not only that, but to his career. So I've really enjoyed it. But yeah, incredible match. As an opener, I thought it was really, really good. Some spots I just wanted to point out. You had the Dominator, which is just a normal move that Lashley does, but to do it to a guy like Cruz was so such ease and finesse. It was so effortless. It just looked really good. It just made you think like, wow, Lashley he's dominant, with a Dominator. And then you had, I think it was Lashley who did it to Cruz, but one of them ran the other one into that post on the outside, and he just span off of it. That was really cool as well. Like such a really hard hitting but agile match. Two guys that I think really, really work well together. Another point as well was, and Cruz does this all the time, but just nice little mention as well. He did obviously the Black Panther, Wakanda Forever before he did the moonsault and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just a really good display of both of the guys basically, and right decision. I think, even though it did make me feel a little sad for Cruz, but it was the right decision to put it on Lashley because he needs that kind of rocket structure now, and this group definitely need that. So yeah, really, really good match.
Yeah, I've said this for a long time now, but there's a universe that exists where somehow John Cena and Brock Lesnar didn't make it to WWE, and Bobby Lashley is the guy because he is the complete package. But it's the fact that the first time round he was there in the mid-2000s is when John Cena was the hottest thing on the entire planet, and there was no beating John Cena in 2006.
They weren't ready for Lashley, were they? Yeah.
Yeah. He then returned to the company a few years ago after they'd put all their money in the Brock Lesnar being the MMA star who is the legit badass of WWE. And those two people didn't exist. Bobby Lashley's your guy. He is the look, he's got the agility, he's got the strength, he's got everything you need to be that guy. And I'm hoping and I'm praying that this is just a way for us to get that match, because obviously they're both in their 40s now. There's a thing that we need to remember. Their roster, some of them are not young. They're not young guys, and the potential, of retirement for some of these guys gets closer each and every year as they push to close to 50. Please give us the match we want. We want Lashley against Lesnar. That's what we want. We wanted it since 2006, I think, and we've not got it. We came very close a few years ago, I believe, when Lashley beat Roman Reigns at Extreme Rules, but then Reigns still ended up getting a title match somehow. But I think, we're at the point now where Lashley, he has just been on such an incredible run. In terms of the match, you're right. It was one of those matches where, I think people have slept on Lashley and Cruz for so long. People maybe think, oh, Lashley, he's just going to be mid-card fodder. He's just seeing out his contract. Apollo Crews, obviously, fantastic, normal talent. But obviously, before he reappeared on Raw this year, most people forgot he wasn't even employed. But we're at the point now where these two guys have just a fantastic opening match on a show which obviously didn't have much hype going into it. But now I'm kind of thinking about, and Scott and I, we both got of the ilk that MVP was meant to win the championship, and that it felt very much it was built around him. But obviously he now seems to be completely out that picture, and after two losses basically. But it was nice as well, like you say, how they did give Apollo a really good face title run. Obviously we have to exclude that little bit in the middle where problems happened. But they gave a face a championship reign of I'm just going to have good matches and win clean, and not have too much the shenanigans and kind of bollocks that they do with some of the other championships where they just won't let a babyface just have a good run. I think it was a nice feel good run, And I'm hoping and praying that, this isn't the end for Apollo's push, potentially even him, could this be the start of something bigger for him, or can he go over, maybe eventually go over and win the IC Touch Championship? But does he join the Hurt? Does he keep down Raw and join the Hurt Business and perhaps win a tag championship? Because the Street Profits are still champions, so there's real scope now for both guys coming out of this.
He'll be 24/7 champion on Raw.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, excellent stuff from both guys, I felt.
Yeah, I really also liked, I forgot to mention, another spot I really enjoyed was seeing Cruz hit the low-down version of the Frog Splash as well, which is really cool. I'm not too sure about the name of the full Lashley. I think that's a bit weak for a name. And also forgot to mention, but the photo shoot thing at the end was, I liked the idea, but didn't like the execution. The effect was kind of cool, but it didn't help that it obviously was just stills from the video camera, and they've done it in the edit because that's what they were doing. It didn't help because you see in the picture they're looking at a different angle to the cameraman that's supposed to be taking the pictures. So they need to work on that a little bit more. They should just move the fake cameraman out of the way and get the video camera guy there, especially while there's no crowd there and nobody can tell what's going on, or even just do it above him. But it looks a bit weird that MVP was posing to a camera that he wasn't looking at, which was a bit odd. But I like the idea of it. It's something different. I know some people might look at that and go, what the heck's this? But they're cocky, they're flash, they're in their suits. Like, it's the kind of thing they do, So I like that. Also, we've got Cruz attacking at the end and just not being okay with losing his title, which is cool. Some people might think, that was a bit, not very honourable as a good guy. But at the same time, you just lost your title and they put you through crap for months, So why not? So I enjoyed that as well. I enjoyed seeing that part of Cruz. But maybe that's sowing the seeds for him being a bit too angry, and maybe he does end up joining them. But either way, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I do think that they'll do something, I think, with Cruz. I think he's too good a talent not to do something with. So, whether that is turning him heel, making him a part of the Hurt Business, or even a bit of a bold prediction is, obviously, one of them's already screwed me over at this pay-per-view. But so a boldish prediction is, with the draft coming up, is potentially, could they move him back to NXT, because the 4 guys in the NXT Fatal 4-Way match are all seemingly heels, so they're going to need a babyface challenger for that. Could Apollo Crews be that babyface challenger?
Great, yeah.
You think the incredible matches you could get: Apollo Crews versus Finn Balor, Apollo Crews versus Adam Cole, Apollo Crews versus Johnny Gargano, Apollo Crews versus Tommaso Ciampa. He would get incredible matches out of any of those guys, and all you'd have to do is put the title on someone for 2 months. If if it is true that it's going to be October time, Apollo could easily go there, and then around Survivor Series time, have him challenge at that takeover for the championship maybe, and if it does then lead to a triple threat, Apollo versus, providing they're still champions, Apollo versus Reigns versus McIntyre at Survivor Series. If they're going to do that again, that could well be an incredible match. And, I think that could be something really that would benefit him. Or as Lucas said, maybe like SmackDown going after the Intercontinental title as well. But
I really like that NXT idea though, because I think a lot of people forget he came from the Indies. He did work that side. He's a very different kind of athlete to what WWE are used to, and he ticks so many boxes. Much like Lucas was saying earlier about Lashley having a total package. Like Cruz is the same. He should be what McMahon's dreaming about, plus what the internet fans like as well. All internet fans, everyone knows the internet these days, but that phrase is still prevalent for some reason. What the internet fans like as well, So I think NXT would be a really, really good fit for him, but who knows?
Yeah, it's one of those big what ifs, isn't it, really? So, and then talking of NXT, let's move over to a former NXT champion in Big E, who took on Sheamus in the second match of the night. Now, all 3 of us, for the first time, successfully picked the winner of this one. I think it was kind of a foregone conclusion that Big E was going to win this one. But yeah, I think this was everything that it set out to be. It was always going to be a entertaining, hard-hitting contest, and then the big ending essentially to get the 1, 2, 3.
What did Rob pick?
All of us said Big E.
Oh, okay, guys. Well, I was hoping we'd laugh at him when he's not here. No, another match. It was decent. I like what they're doing. I think we all chose Big E because of all the rumors coming out about him having this singles push anyway. So you can't start that off with a loss. So I liked how they presented it, but it was, in the same time, it was a bit silly because I'm sure he's probably beat Sheamus on a one-on-one match before. You know, he's had plenty of one-on-one matches, but they made it really seem like this was such a big step. And yeah, former, world champion and Sheamus and all that. And I like the way they presented it, but it was a bit funny to me seeing something that would have been a throwaway match on SmackDown 6 months ago just happened to be a singles match. Now he's being kind of pushed as, look at this singles match, So it was quite interesting, but a good way to start it. If you're going to do it, you got to start building them up. Starting off with Sheamus, pretty good. Sheamus looking for like Mickey O'Neill from Snatch backstage was a bit confusing to me, but a little bit of Brad Pitt going on there for Sheamus. But yeah, I just I thought it was a decent match. It wasn't amazing, but it was good for what it was. It was one of those that could have done with a crowd, though, really getting behind Big E. I know they pumped in the fake New Day claps, and yeah, that audience thing just annoyed me even more in this background audio annoyed me even more in this show than it did SummerSlam even. But yeah, decent show, like you say, ended with a decent match, even ended with the beginning. But yeah, a regular match presented differently is the way I see this.
Yeah, I mean, it was all right. I think it's hard now that Roman's back. It's hard to kind of know where they're going to do this push for Big E, especially because they just obviously pushed Jeff Hardy to the IC title, and there's obviously already kind of stuff in the works for that. Those who've seen SmackDown, they seem to Sami Zayn back as well. They're going down an angle which is going to go probably for at least a couple of months. So it's a bit like, what else is there for him to redo on SmackDown? If obviously, or are they going to? Is he going to? I don't know. Is he going to be the next challenger? I felt like this reminded me of a match when they first brought back the brand split and did the insane thing of giving us pay-per-views every 5 minutes, it felt like. And we used to get a Raw and SmackDown pay-per-view every week, it seemed. And there would be just some really complete random matches on them. So if someone asked you to list a card from one of them, you probably couldn't list more than one match, in the main event. I think it's tough, though, because they have to create new stars. In order to do that, though, they have to obviously acknowledge that some of these programs aren't going to be the most entertaining, and people have to start somewhere. This pay-per-view really reminded me, as a whole, of a pay-per-view that they're doing about the mid-90s, really, because it was one of those shows, when we're going to get to obviously later on, where it was only like a two-match card, really, on paper. Like, if you look at it in terms of matches that they actually promoted, and you actually felt, okay, this was actually a pay-per-view quality match. But the rest of the card was filled with just solid action, and obviously establishing stuff going forward. Good to see Big E get the win. Obviously, this is now Sheamus's. I think he's lost a few matches in a row now. So it is something which I guess they've got to keep an eye on, especially if he lost a bar fight to Jeff Hardy recently. But one of those where you can't be too unhappy, though, because it's like, even though he's lost, they are doing it to put someone else over
it serves
in the right way.
Yeah.
In the right way. They're not being silly and doing the Goldberg coming back and beating someone for no reason, or another part timer. There are others available. But
Plenty available.
But they are kind of going, okay, well, we want to push Big E. Sheamus has got to take the fall. We want to push Jeff Hardy. Sheamus has got to take the fall. But let's not make it a third or fourth person. Let's not make Sheamus a guy who just loses to people all the time. Because I still think he's got a lot to offer. I don't think he'll ever be a world champion again. But I think, IC title reign, and if they want to just get the bar back together, which would have been the smartest thing to do, I felt, anyway, since he returned, then they've got that opportunity too. But, I mean, overall, decent stuff. And again, pacing-wise of this show, I don't think any match apart from one went above 15 minutes. I think most of them about the 10-minute mark, and I think that helped too, because I think if some of them were any longer, I'd have been a bit like, But overall, yeah, can't complain. But let's see. Hopefully, Big E will get some more stuff in the next couple of months.
Yeah, definitely. I think like from what you were saying about like with the thing with Sheamus, it's like you mentioned about like you don't think he's going to be like a top like main event guy again, and you know I remember when me and Scott were talking with Cesaro a while back, and he mentioned on there that there's always been this thing with Sheamus that he's never won the Intercontinental title, and that's probably like the last thing that he would want to do before he can like retire, kind of thing. So. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see like him going down that path at some point. So
Yeah.
he'll be more of like the mid card guy, and you know, I think although people have said like he's a really like hard hitting guy in like the strangest way possible, he seems like a safe pair of hands to put people in the ring with, and you know, he seems like he is willing obviously to put people over. You know, I
Yeah.
would say put newer stars over, but you know, Big E's been a star for a while. Jeff Hardy obviously has been a star for many years.
Almost 30 years.
I know.
It's absolutely madness. You think he's winning championships in 4 decades.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know.
It is just it's an incredible story. But yeah, I think overall I think this was the right outcome. Big E winning this, and you know obviously is going to propel him. I think possibly to that main event. I mean, especially if it's looking like Roman has turned into a heel, then he's going to obviously need babyface challengers. For some reason, I just can't take the Fiend seriously as a babyface. So I think Big E could be a believable challenger to go in there, you know, match Roman for power. Could we
This
see a
did
Big
feel like
E?
the very start of a journey, though. You know, like if they're gonna, I feel like it does need to take a while for Biggie to build this. Even though we all know he could just jump straight into it, I think they presented it in a way of this is the beginning of my singles journey, which is makes you feel like it's going to go on for a while. But I think with WWE, it's not. It is going to get shoved straight forward. Interestingly, that thing you said about Sheamus, though, like kind of been in that IC range, it reminded me of Kane in like the mid 2010s sort of thing. Like. As Lucas said, he can't lose too many, but I think that's what they did with Kane. They put him there as a good hand, big, strong guy. You could believe he could beat anyone, but when someone beat him, it was impressive. And every now and then he steps into a big feud with The Undertaker. Every now and then he won the world title and went back down and or the IC or wherever it is. So I think, using Sheamus like that, I think Kane's probably the most comparable person in the past maybe 10 years that we've got like that as someone that you look at and go, and you could argue Kane's character definitely got ruined in quite a few ways, but it was always quite relevant when they needed him to be. He always still had that kind of, oh, it's Kane, you know what I mean? So if they're careful, they could do it like that with Sheamus.
You got the big red machine and the red haired machine.
He's just a constant, I think, isn't it? Someone like Sheamus. I mean, he's just consistently been very good. And he's someone, like you said, like he's a pair of hands in a weird kind of way. But I think it is like it's believable when someone does beat him. It does feel like it's a bigger deal than any other kind of guy in his kind of spot. Because he didn't lose too often until obviously recently. It's not necessarily a bad thing, obviously, moving down the card, I guess. And I guess something which obviously, as superstars get older and as time goes on, they realise that they're moving away from the World Championship dream and obviously having to settle for something else. And I think someone like Sheamus, like, he's probably just happy now to have good matches. Because I think, wasn't it before this injury, when he got this injury, he kind of didn't think he would return at one point, didn't he?
Yeah.
Thought that was kind of it. And, to be able to obviously have some more time now is kind of a bonus.
Probably a lot of time to reflect, like you say, and thinking about if I do come back, this is what I want to do. So...
I mean, Big E, like, this is one, the only thing I'd say about Big E is, it is one where I do agree, there's a few things that happened tonight that needed a crowd. And in terms of the Fiend being, I'm going to get to the Fiend later, actually, I think no crowd might actually help some of the programs that could come up, because it allows them to basically be like, well, we're going to present it and have not had to worry about the crowd response. We've only got the online fan response, which, let's be honest, like every online fan response to WWE is negative anyway, on the most part.
Yeah. They can forge an opinion before they get the people back, and then by the time the people are back, they're thinking the way WWE want them to think. Like they've got through those kind of awkward kind of, I'm not sure of this, people shouting and people booing. I think you're right. I think they're pushing through it, and a lot of storylines while they can. I think the key one is the Roman one and Bray losing and stuff like that. They've just been like, look, well, we got no one there. We're going to do what we want to do.
It's like that manipulation thing. So it's like, you know, we want this guy as a heel, you are going to boo this person. It's like, we can manipulate that with like different sounds. Like we can make you boo this. We can make it sound like this person's getting booed. So it's like they can finally like, oh, we're going to put we're going to put this down as this person getting booed. Whereas, if the crowd was there, they might cheer the person. It's like, at least them doing the Thunderdome concept, they can then
tweak it. It's a good time to rush a lot of these feuds through, basically, and I think that is why they're starting a lot of them the way they are. So,
and I think come the time when obviously fans are back, our fans going to then be in that mindset of, okay, so they are actually presenting this person as a good guy.
I think I think he'll be trained by then, basically.
Especially with the pumped in crowd noises, the overemphasis on the cheers and the boos that they're pumping into it. But we now move on to Matt Riddle versus King Corbin. So Scott, you and me obviously said that we thought Matt Riddle were going to win, and we were correct. Rob also said that Matt Riddle would win, although he did have a caveat where he said that he wanted Corbin to win, as he, in his words, hates Matt Riddle.
Yeah, I want him on the show now because I want to know why. Because I don't see how you can feel that strongly against Riddle.
And Lucas, obviously, you went the opposite way. You went for King Corbin to win.
Yes. Obviously, I just felt that this show. Another thing that makes the show very weird is that it's a very babyface heavy win show. They just refuse to have bad guys win. And I just felt that Corbin would be the one to do it above Sheamus, as we've already discussed. And I just felt, that he'd win. But having looking at some stats on this, King Corbin eliminated Matt Riddle from the NXT Survivor Series team last year. He also eliminated him for the Royal Rumble this year. And obviously tried to ruin his SmackDown debut, the ransom and stuff on. So I should have known a bit better that, Riddle was going to win at some point. I had no problem with this match, to be fair. Like, I don't know if I'm a fan of his new finish, Matt Riddle. It might also not be helped because there's a lot of people doing top rope stuff now. It feels like, and not just people who should be doing the top rope stuff. Because bearing in mind, like, we haven't had the cruiserweight title. The cruiserweights on NXT. We're seeing a lot of top rope stuff, especially the frog splash, which we saw at least another 10 times tonight. But overall, I can't really complain too much. I think obviously Corbin's another kind of dispatchable kind of villain of the week. He kind of reminds me of like Power Ranger when I was a kid. Well, I say kid. I rewatched series during lockdown. But you know how they used to be a monster of the week. Corbin, he's very much like that. He's a villain which you just kind of send out and go, babyface to get over. Flying like pretties.
It's like Lord Zed.
Yeah. And you send down King Corbin. And he's a formidable foe. And afterwards you kind of forget that the match even happened. But I think it was good for Riddle to get his first pay-per-view victory. And also, this is where this whole week build thing comes into it, I think, because I kind of realised that what I'm thinking they're doing, and I don't know if I'm going to be correct in the next month or next 2 months with this, I think what they're doing is they're wanting to do more pay-per-view matches, but they've gone off, obviously, having the 4-hour events. And so instead of doing that, they're splitting stuff in half. Because it feels very much like this match in particular was getting set up even before SummerSlam. And we had situations where, like, the Randy Orton and Big Show match didn't make it onto Extreme Rules. The horror show at Extreme Rules. But then ended up happening in Raw. But that was very much a pay-per-view build match. It had everything to it. It had the promos. Had obviously its two legends, we'd say, in the business at least. And they didn't go on pay-per-view. So I'm getting a feeling that what they're doing is that they're splitting the pay-per-view card they want to have in half and going half of you have a match this week, half of you match this week. Especially because like Drew wasn't on the card, no WWE title match. The fact that obviously they couldn't have a women's tag title match last week, so they had one this week. And it just felt very much like, this was like the other side of a coin. But yeah, I'm a bit weird about the faces are winning though. That's the only thing I'd question. And Matt Riddle, where does he go next? Because isn't he in the same kind of trajectory as like a Big E, or is he a bit lower, would you say? I don't know.
So, first of all, on the pay-per-view thing, I think it's interesting that you brought up a point earlier about Raw and SmackDown pay-per-views, because this feels like that, you know, where you could have, if you were really defining the brands, which I doubt they're going to do. Who knows? As the draft come out, maybe they'll do it this time around. But yeah, if they did, then that would be the perfect way to do it. Like I said, some titles weren't even on SummerSlam, and they were on this one instead. So that would be a good way to do it. Secondly, the faces winning. I don't know if that's just because it's called Payback, and you kind of want the good guy to get the payback on a lot of these things. So maybe that's that. And then on the Riddle thing, as far as comparison to Big E, I think that's exactly what, when you were talking about it in the Sheamus Big E match, I was already thinking about this match, because thinking how similar it was, you know, of yeah, I think that's why I thought Riddle was going to win, because I was like, it's his first match. The only thing that made me think he wouldn't is if there was anything held against him about like the personal stuff that come out a while back and stuff like that, and city stuff and whatever. Which kind of leans into, I really felt uncomfortable with that promo of saying he was bad at home. Obviously, yeah. We don't need to go into all that, but there were allegations which he claims weren't true, which ended up instead meant he had to explain how he had cheated on his wife, but they're fine now, sort of thing. And I just felt really uncomfortable linking it to that anyway. It's kind of like the Jeff Hardy thing a few months back with a DUI, but more so that it links to a potential serious allegation even deeper than that, which has kind of been pushed away by Riddle. But obviously with Velveteen and all that stuff that's been going on in the NXT UK guys, I just felt like it was, even if you're only alluding to the cheating or whatever it is, you can't help but think of the reason why that story came out in the first place was because of something that might or might not be true. But Riddle claims it wasn't, and okay. But then, yeah, that's the only reason why that stuff came out about Riddle's personal life. So for me, it was very uncomfortable kind of bringing it up, because it just reminded me of why we knew that stuff, and that wasn't right for me. So yeah, it was things like that that made me think maybe they weren't too hot on Riddle at the moment. Maybe they kind of, because obviously it all came out when he was about to make his SmackDown debut. So, you know, depending on what's true and what's not, and who you do and don't believe, that's neither here nor there on this. But what I was getting at is that WWE themselves might have been a bit cautious. So I thought maybe they'd hold back on Riddle, but they're not. And clearly they're comfortable enough to even poke at it, which I think is, again, the wrong thing to do. But because they are, then surely that means they are completely happy with Riddle. And yeah, fair play. Like, he did really well in this match. I think for what it was against Corbin, it did feel like a kind of just a SmackDown match for me. But both guys did well. I really like getting into because you're re-establishing Riddle here, you know, coming from NXT. So getting in there. Oh, he's barefoot. Oh, no, he grapples. Oh, he's like an MMA fighter. You know, we all know this stuff because we've seen it in NXT, but it was just re-establishing all that. And I really liked, to Corbin's credit, him selling the kidneys as well from the kicks. And just like really, really struggling towards the end. So, yeah, really, really good. Like, again, another match that served this purpose. I wouldn't usually say this was a pay-per-view. Like there was a lot of things, like you were saying, there's a lot of matches on here where you think it's not really pay-per-view, but like a B or C pay-per-view, which I guess this kind of is, more so a C because it's come so close. It was fine for what it was. It did exactly what it needed to do.
I think it's the fact that the presentation of this is what's key. What they're doing is, and I guess, you know, this is where, you know, I guess the internet may dislike it, and obviously we're going to make comments as we go on about, obviously, this whole not feeling pay-per-view. But the thing is, I think they want these matches to feel important, so the wrestlers feel important. You know, for stuff that's coming up in potentially the future. And I think we can't be too down on it for that reason, because at the end of the day, you know, we wanted them to create new stars and to give people time and to do all this stuff. And if this is the way they choose to do it, then, you know, this is the way, like, we're getting, you know, I think we should get behind. Because at the end of the day, I think, yes, Matt Riddle versus King Corbin, to me, yes, it doesn't sound like a pay-per-view match, but the fact that they put it on a pay-per-view makes me a bit more inclined to go back and watch it, and to feel important about it. Because if it's just thrown onto a random SmackDown, then it gets thrown on with all the other random stuff that happens on SmackDown every week, and then 2 weeks later you've forgotten it. But now I know, and it's been ingrained for a little while at least, that King Corbin and Matt Riddle had a match at a pay-per-view at some point, and I can go back and watch that.
It feels like a proper checkpoint on the story, don't it? Like a real start to the growth of both Big E and Riddle. Yeah,
because there's still a lot of fans that don't watch the weekly TV and, you know, don't even keep up with weekly TV, but every time there's a pay-per-view or even like if, when Goldberg and Lesnar come back, they turn it on and they see it. And on this show, like I said, this is Roman Reigns' return pay-per-view. That's the sole reason for it existing. Let's be real. Just so to, well, as we're going to get onto later on, the Universal title match. But in the day, it's just big fans when they watch it back and see, Roman Reigns returned. Oh, but look, King Corbin also had a match against Matt Riddle. Like, it's that kind of thing where if it's on a random episode of SmackDown, it gets thrown in with so much different stuff. And so 2 matches back to back, basically like that, with just establishing, one new star, I guess, in Matt Riddle, and an existing star, which obviously is being pushed differently in Big E. It was nice to see that they're giving those people time, and hopefully we're getting something out of it, which is it's a long-term thing, though. That's the thing I'm hoping. I mean, we touched upon it in the last couple of matches. Like, it isn't just a case of, okay, they won one match, now let's give them a title. It's like, no, we need to have more of these good matches, and then we can talk about the IC or tag or whatever avenue they want to go down.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it doesn't just lead to like 3 or 4 like Corbin Riddle matches on pay-per-view. I just hope it's like, it seems like, okay, all the stuff that happened, as you mentioned, with like the Survivor Series thing, the Royal Rumble thing, it's like, okay, Riddle has now got that win over Corbin. He's kind of given Corbin his comeuppance. I just think draw a line under that.
Yeah.
Under that feud.
You could
now.
switch him. He could go with Sheamus and Big E could go with Corbin.
Exactly.
Now. But then again, you'd have the problem of them both losing again. Maybe both of them, the faces should lose the next one, and then so that they can drag those ones out twofold. But yeah.
Yeah, I just think, draw a line under it now, and then, if they come face to face again in the Royal Rumble, or, around Survivor Series time, could be like, okay, who's going to lead Team SmackDown kind of thing, and then that can obviously reignite things. But I just think just draw a line under it. I think Corbin for me is one of those characters where he's doing his job well, because I hate the character, but I think what I have noticed with him though, his moveset is probably up there with one of the best movesets I feel in the company. Like
absolutely,
definitely, like the deep six is brilliant, and the end of days as well. It's like, I don't think I can pick another wrestler on that roster at the moment who has got 2 moves that are that good, and but I'm happy. Sorry, go on.
When does King Corbin stop being King Corbin? He won the King of the Ring last September.
Yeah, so I looked this up last night as well, because I thought it should be maybe a year, because the only way is if they do another King of the Ring. And if they do another one, I mean, I love the King of the Ring. It needs to be used properly. But I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, but are they really going to move him away from this gimmick? Because the King Barrett thing went on for a while, and he was the last one before this. I think there was a 4-year gap. So I know he weren't playing King Barrett all that time because he left as well.
Didn't he get injured? He got injured and that stopped it.
Yeah,
I think they wait for something. They wait sadly for injuries.
Yeah, I mean, they should just give it to someone new. Do another King of the Ring. The King of the Ring is a great concept. It frustrates me. They just throw it in when they need it for a purpose, and that's it. They don't make it what it used to be. Even if it wasn't a show, even if it was on Raw. But now, like, why would you not have a network special? That's how it should be. You can do these things now. So a King of the Ring, and even use that as your storyline where he's upset about losing his crown. Like maybe he's going into it to defend it, and he loses it again, or even retains it. Even if he retains it, he's the ultimate king.
It's hard to say though, because I think, like, even though they haven't had King of the Ring, they've obviously had a lot of tournaments for other stuff. Like, they've had, obviously, the Mae Young Classics. They've had the Cruiserweight Classic tournament thing. They didn't have once a Cruiserweight tournament or whatever. And NXT's love their weird tournament things. Where
they've always got,
For the
Japan, isn't it? All these tournaments.
I think it's hard because one of the complaints they always get about, or fans make about gimmick pay-per-views, is that obviously in October, all of a sudden, matches end up having Hell in a Cell, despite the feud not needing it. And I think King of the Ring is one of those where they've gone the other way, where they've gone, right, so before they really, really wanted to have King Barrett. They wanted to push Barrett as that role and give him that gimmick and run with it. I think he got injured. Someone will probably correct us if I'm incorrect. He either got injured or it just kind of like just faded out after a certain amount of time. And similarly here, I think they knew that they needed something for Corbin. He was obviously buried. He basically got blamed for basically killing Raw, didn't he? Mr. Constable. And before that, let's be real, he was seen as the mockery who lost the Money in the Bank briefcase as well as his hairline. Back in 2016, 2017.
Don't get him started on the hairline.
I used to hate. I was always saying that he needed to shave his head on Talking Beans constantly. I said he looks so much better, and
he does. But yeah, I think, and as well, like he didn't get the right kind of. Especially he had the heat after he retired Kurt Angle. Which obviously lots of people were hoping it would be someone else, and obviously it ends up being King Corbin, just Baron Corbin at the time, wasn't King yet, was he? So I think he needed something else, and so I think it's one of those where they have chosen to build it at the right time, but I do think there is an argument that you could have it used properly more regularly, but it's hard because then every year would you find someone new to fit that gimmick? Like who would have that?
But they don't always have to have it, when. Who is it? I'm thinking Kurt Angle won it. He had it for a bit, but he didn't run for it for a whole year. Do you know what I mean? It was only really, Sheamus had it for a bit as well. But before that, when it used to be every year, when Billy Gunn won it, for example, he wasn't a king for a year. Do you know what I mean? He was just when Brock Lesnar won it, he wasn't a king.
Edge as well.
Edge, yeah. So I think if you want to use the king gimmick, because I think Randy Savage used it. Haku used it like that a bit as well, but
King
the big
Booker.
ones, the big ones. I think that King Booker was probably the biggest one in the kind of more recent generation. And since then, they've really stepped on the King thing. But if you're doing it every year, you don't have to do it that way because they've only needed a proper royal type. I've won it. Look at me. I think I'm royalty twice in the past 5 years. So therefore, they've only held the competition twice in the past 5 years. So if that's the case, do King of the Ring every year. Not everyone's obsessed and wants to be an actual king. And two every 5 years. If you think this year, this guy he could be that heel, then give it to that guy. So for me, just bring it back and then work around it rather than putting it into your plans because you feel like you want a new gimmick.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think it'd be hard for them to go back to that, but I think if they presented it more as a wrestling thing than a storyline thing, that's the key difference.
Yeah.
Whereas it was the Cruiserweight Classic and the Mae Young Classic, they went, here's basically 32. Here's basically X amount of wrestlers. They're really good. Someone's going to win. And then, but King of the Ring is always very much seen as it's a storyline thing. Because even in last year's King of the Ring, they had, they already had storylines kind of going into it. Same thing with the Intercontinental, the IC title tournament earlier this year, where they already had the Jeff Hardy and Sheamus thing kind of link into the tournament. So I think they'd had to find a way to present it as a more legitimate kind of thing, which I guess, I don't know if WWE are in that kind of market at the moment to get those legitimate kind of fans. But I think it could be one of those good things where basically people who've been rid of a bad gimmick, such as, to be fair, Shorty G, one of those where just a good wrestler wins it. Because he's a good wrestler. Someone like Shelton Benjamin. He's in that talking spot too, of someone who's just a good wrestler who could just win it. And, you win it, because essentially it is saying you are the best wrestler. I always think, it should mean you're the best wrestler in the company. Yeah. Ideally, because you're saying you're the king of the ring. It's one of the few things that actually use the ring, because, WWE like with eliminating wrestling and, all these kind of words to it, which might be another reason I don't like it as much, because obviously it has to obviously refer at some point to someone being good inside the ring at wrestling, which obviously WWE are adamant that they don't promote anymore. They promote sports entertainment and your favourite, Scott, cinematic matches.
If we had a cinematic king in the ring, I would not be happy.
Some CGI king walking around.
It'd be like the king of the set or something. No, thank you.
Okay, so we've gone on from talking about kings and all that to a match featuring a queen, the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler,
nice.
Teaming with Nia Jax to take on the tag team champions of Sasha Banks and Bayley, who I don't think you could say that anyone has had a worse week than Sasha Banks, really, losing 2 titles in.
Yeah, and they really hyped it up at the end, which is really good as well. They more focus on her being upset as if she's ready to say something to Bayley, and we're just waiting for it now. So, Yeah, what did we all predict? I mean, I think did we all go for Bayley and Sasha?
So everyone except Lucas. Lucas was the only one who predicted the title change. So redeeming yourself. So you had one that was
Finally.
wrong, one that was right. So I think you like stats. I think this might be the first time that you've actually been the only one to predict something correct, and everyone else has
Probably.
gone the
'Cause I
opposite
kept
one.
kept putting notice at everything, didn't I, at one point?
Yeah.
I'm
surprised
surprised you didn't say. I'm surprised you didn't say him like to come down.
Cash in on
Him
them.
and Mandy.
He just literally gives it to Mandy and just says, "Right, go on, go with someone."
Yeah. Now, I was shocked they did it because we've been talking about it for so long that this would be the start, and I actually thought last week, I said on the SummerSlam one that I think this is going to be the start and they could lose their titles here. But when I saw who they were facing, I was like, nah, it's not happening, because I'm not a fan of putting them, two singles people together unless it, somehow strikes like the New Day and the Bar, which is rare. But yeah, with this, I just didn't like it. I didn't like it at first how they were like, no, I'm clearly not getting on already and whatever. I mean, I kind of get that they're both just badasses. So they kind of fit in that sense. But basically, I want Shayna to be pushed on her own. I want her to get her singles title. This is why I don't really like it. If this was later in the year where she'd already had that and she needed something else as a stopgap, great. But we're past the point of building her up. She should be back. She should be in that title picture anyway. But I will say, the ending, wow. How good was the ending? Like, it made her look amazing. Like, it was one of the best match endings I've seen all year. It was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed it. And I was shocked, and I was happy I was shocked. So although I'm disappointed that she's not getting her singles run, I can't lie and pretend I wasn't happy when the bell rung and she looked like an absolute badass, So showing the difference between the two was a bit weird. Nia being really goofy and with a title, she never does that. Why is she suddenly doing it now? Like, it was really, really hammed up in a strange way. Obviously, that's going to lead
drunk.
Yeah, exactly. But it's going to go something there. All right, but I guess it serves its purpose for Sasha and Bayley. I just didn't think it would be these two that did it. If they're just a stopgap for the Riott Squad or even the IIconics, if they somehow get pushed again, or an actual legit team, then cool. And if it just temporarily made Shayna look great, then cool. But yeah, I did really enjoy the ending, and I really enjoyed the beginning as far as the promo package, which was phenomenal as well, just making Sasha and Bayley look absolutely amazing. Which just, again, made me think they shouldn't be losing to these two, or aren't even a proper team. But losing to the power of Shayna, I can buy that.
Yeah, I mean, I just love the finish because I think they all decided, they all been met up before the match without Nia, and went, we'll do whatever you want, Shayna, just keep that bitch away from us, because they literally just got with Nia, and there was about a solid 2 minutes where it was just Bayley, Banks, and obviously Baszler just able to actually wrestle injury-free. But I get a feeling that this might be their defining thing as a tag team. And I'm interested to see, this is the thing, they've got me from a situation where Shayna and Nia 3 weeks ago were basically doing nothing to a situation where now they're actually in something. I want to see more of it. And I get a feeling this might be their defining thing of like the whole, okay, so yesterday obviously Baszler looked like a badass and having both of them basically in a submission basically, and having basically a double tap out essentially in a weird kind of way. And then they're going to do a thing when the next defense or next match, Nia will do a double pin or something like that. Like, that would be like the defining thing of like, you're bad, but I'm badder.
Yeah.
I mean, Nia needs to be released. Like, we're past that now.
It's strong, mate. It's strong. Not just lose the title, she needs to be released.
But I think we're past that now. Like, they've obviously decided to use her for whatever reason. God help the women's division. Her problem is she's not a very good wrestler, and it's not even in the sense that she's not entertaining or that she doesn't have the look or whatever. I won't say anything like that, but it's just like she's not very good at the stuff she does in the ring. She's dangerous, and I think if this was a few years ago, like, I think it would be like not fine, but it'd be a bit overlooked because obviously women's wrestling wasn't presented the way it is now. But it's very, very hard because the WWE women's roster is so stacked and so good to have someone so bad in it.
I think she's been left behind quite a bit. You know, no NXT days, like you said, I think she hasn't really progressed, and I think that's what the key is. She's been in a quite a prominent spot for most of her time there, and for what now, maybe five years she's been in the company, maybe on the main roster, or between that and NXT. And I don't think she's improved enough. And like I say, when there's so much talent around them, for her to keep getting these top spots and seemingly not improving that much, I don't know. Maybe if I go back and watch a match of her from 5 years ago, it will be a difference. But I feel like I can see the difference in Corbin, you know. And back then, I remember doing a lot of talking beans on the NXT shows and saying the takeovers and saying, you know, you can see him growing, you can see him getting better. I had a few kind of things about Corbin when he was new, like I weren't too sure about certain things, but he's won me over. Whereas I think I expected it more from Nia, and I think that's where the disappointment comes in for most people, that she hasn't kind of kicked on in the way that people thought. It's like she's kind of been coasting, I think is the way people look at it.
Yeah, and I think obviously she's using the fact that she's got the lineage to be able to, you know, just do that. And I think it's not fair on the other women that obviously work there. And I think, you know, it's just scary because even like Kairi Sane, a fantastic talent, and by all means, someone who I don't think anyone's ever had a bad word to say about in the history of anyone. And she decided that she was safer working in Japan with people than she was just staying working with Nia.
I'll take the strong style, please.
Take the strong style, the dangerous style. But I mean, I think in terms of you know, going back to the match though, I felt that this is where their 1 week booking of stuff kind of helped, because I felt very strongly that from after watching Raw that this is what they're going to do. They're going to put the belts on to Baszler and Nia Jax. They had escalated that storyline literally like a rocket attached to it from Raw, and just when I just thought if they didn't win, I felt that it would actually do them a disservice. And I think now we are getting into the nitty gritty of things. I mean, we spoke about this, it seemed like for months now, where we said, when are they waiting to pull the plug on certain things until the crowds come back? And I think slowly, as months have gone by, they're slowly just accepting that. They're holding on to certain things, and that's most likely Lesnar returning and Goldberg getting his matches next year. But I think everything else outside of that has gone, no, you can't wait anymore. Thunderdome as well, I think that helps because they feel it's a bit maybe like, okay, at least there is physical, somewhat screens of people there. But you know, we've seen Reigns return. You know, we've seen Sami Zayn being, you know, return. We've seen main title changes. You know, we're seeing all the, and I think they're slowly realising that we can't hold on to this Bayley and Sasha program for too long, and with the hope that they could do even at Survivor Series in front of a crowd, even at TLC, at the Rumble, potentially. So I think they are realising that now we've got to do it. And it's one of those. And this is one of those matches as well, actually, where I kind of think that if there was a crowd, that Bayley and Sasha would have been cheered a lot during this. And because I feel able, if there was a crowd, I don't think we would have done this 1 week build up for certain. But also, I feel that Nia and Shayna, the way that it's been presented, they're very villain. And Shayna obviously isn't the best on the mic, but she's very good in the ring, obviously, and is popular for that reason. I think Bayley and Banks have just been on such a roll, and they're so memeable that if there was crowds there, they'd be signed with some of their sayings, some of their stuff they've been. They're saying so much of this kind of cool stuff. And it is one, and I think it's one of those where, because there's no crowd, they're able to do this, present it like this. Because if there was a crowd, I think they would have shut over the ending. Over basically like Nia and Shayna even being a team.
Let alone... the bit in the ring would end in a promo at the end. I think wouldn't have had a chance to breathe like it did. I think you're right. I think the audience would have kind of, especially with Nia, and like you say, the week build, there would have been a lot of stuff working against the way WWE wanted to book this. So it is, another example of let's just push it through while no one's there and get them thinking the way we want when everyone's back.
Yeah, I don't think there's been another occasion when there's been two women's tag matches either on a pay-per-view. It's literally the pay-per-view of first. I believe it's the most amount of firsts ever.
They do love their first time evers, don't they?
Yeah,
but they didn't really mention it though, did they? They didn't allude to any of it. So
But I think that's what they want, though. I think we're at the point now with women's wrestling where I just feel it's a bit like if they have enough for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 women's matches on the card, they would do those amount of matches. There's no reason. I believe personally that if they said next year at WrestleMania we was getting 1 men's match and 6 women's matches, they were all built up nicely. I think most reasonable fans would be like, fair enough, fair play to you.
Yeah, no one really bat an eyelid now, I don't think.
If you built up 6 women's matches that we all want to pay to see and fill a stadium, hopefully a stadium, or a social distance arena at least, up with, and people want to pay their money and buy their merch, then fair play to it. I think this is an example of it here, where it's just gone like, yeah, we're gonna have 2 women's tag matches. We don't need to hype it. It's just normal now. It's just what happens.
Yeah, I see no difference now.
Women's tag matches. We put them on. Same thing with WrestleMania. Had what was it, 4 or 5 women's matches in total?
And obviously the headliner as well on last year's.
Yeah,
it was just normal now, and that's the best thing for it. I think that's the greatest compliment for this women's revolution, is that it's normal. No one lets an eyelid unless you're insane. But yeah, for me, there's no difference between the men and women's roster as far as like storylines that I want to see and stuff like that. I don't think women's match. I just think match.
Well, yeah, you'd argue that Bayley and Sasha probably have the longest program on the main roster. Really, it's been going on since even before WrestleMania, isn't it? I think Braun and Bray obviously had quite some time, but there was a break in the middle while Bray had a child. Sorry, while JoJo had a child. Bray looked after.
Bray helped.
Knocked up by the Fiend, didn't it?
Imagine how that come out. Let me in.
Let me out.
Let me out, yeah.
I was talking about Bray, but don't have to get too graphic.
But I enjoyed this match, and I think it's obviously a way that they're going to shift the tag division, women's tag belts, onto like another feud, I guess. Because I'm guessing Bayley and Sasha were feuding against each other, and potentially, I guess the match it kind of set up the Riott squad against the feud, at least the Riott squad against Baszler and Jax, and it should be decent. I think it should be some good time for Liv Morgan to shine in particular, because that'd be quite fun.
Yeah, hopefully. Because I always thought the Riott squad were quality anyway, as I mentioned earlier. But but I think it was one of those decisions I didn't really see it coming. I just thought it's just going to be just a team that they're putting in the way, just so that then they can get essentially just so they can get to the next pay-per-view and then have like Banks and Bayley face off against somebody else, but. I did have a quick look as well, just to see, so obviously after this now, Sasha's obviously not got a championship. Which brand does she then go back to? But apparently she's listed on the SmackDown roster, so she's going to still be on the same brand with Bayley. Whereas at least when they were tag team champions, they had that thing of, okay, we can be on Raw, we can be on NXT if we want, we can be on SmackDown. But it's now they're both just specifically going on to SmackDown. It's like, okay, I just think leave out the Raw stuff for a while. Although they're brilliant and they do make a 3-hour Raw a bit more palatable for people. I think just maybe try and keep them on SmackDown. But the only bad thing is with Bayley as champion, I think they may just look to try and shove Sasha into that title picture as soon as possible, whereas they're going to be overlooking the likes of Naomi, Lacey Evans, those kind of people over there on SmackDown. And I still hope that they don't pull the trigger on this match too early, the Banks and Bayley thing. But I can see them doing it before the end of the year, and it's not. It's just I
guess the only big one before the end of the year is that kind of makes sense with the Survivor Series, but if you get in there, you might as well try and push to the Rumble, So maybe they will have Naomi and Lacey going after the title and still playing up this whole Sasha not sure she wants to help, and sometimes helping, sometimes not. So yeah, they could definitely continue it, but like you, I'm not sure if they're just going to pull the trigger straight away.
Yeah, and I think as well it was quite interesting the fact that obviously Shayna tapped. Was it? I think it was Bayley that actually tapped out, wasn't it?
They used Sasha to choke her and all that.
So, am I right in thinking that it was Bayley that took the pin the last time they lost the tag titles at WrestleMania?
It might have been, yeah.
So, in theory,
obviously Bayley didn't help Sasha.
Yeah, so in theory,
So,
Bayley has lost the tag titles for them on both occasions, whereas Sasha, obviously, it's been well documented, has never retained a championship on pay-per-view or singles championship on pay-per-view. It just seems like Bayley, Sasha could then turn around and say, well, okay, yeah, I've not defended a singles title, but you are the one that always gets defeated when it comes to defending these tag titles. And yeah, I think, Shayna and Nia, it's essentially a handicap match every time they get in the ring, as Lucas has said, really. What I would have liked to have seen, though, was, from what they were alluding to a little bit on Raw Underground the other week, was the whole Jessamine Duke, Marina Shafir thing. Potentially bring them in, just send Nia somewhere, just like write her out of stories or something, and maybe have them as like a trio tag team and do Scott's favourite thing, the Freebird rule with the tag titles.
I'd like to see them together though. I would, and it'd be a good way to get Nia out of it. Like Nia keeps kind of acting like she's in the group or something, and then they kind of turn on. That could make Nia a bit more sympathetic and as well. But
just be like, girl, bye, and send her on somewhere. So now we move into Keith Lee versus Randy Orton. Now, Scott and Rob, you both correctly predicted that Keith Lee was going to win. Lucas, you said Randy Orton to win. Me, I went a little bit bold with my prediction. I actually lost a point on this one because I was doing the thing where I was trying to be a bit too specific with it. I said that this match was going to end in a no contest. So the caveat in the back of my head for that theory, essentially, was that I didn't think that they'd want to have Orton lose 2 pay-per-views running.
That's what I was worried about.
And I didn't think that they would want to have Keith Lee lose his first pay-per-view, essentially singles match on the main roster. So that's why I thought, okay, if I go for a no contest, then it also opens the possibility of Drew coming in to cause some kind of interference. But, we have since learned from WWE.com that Drew McIntyre has sustained a hairline fracture to his jaw, so thus ruling him out of Payback. So,
yeah, I could see why you went for it, especially the temptation of that bonus point. But it's a really risky move when you go for it. It's have to lose a point as well. But
it's kind of like a football analogy when you're kind of 1-0 down in like the last minute. It's like you have to throw the goalkeeper up for the corner to try and get that goal to get it back, but then the team will just go down the other end and put it in the net. So anyway, so that aside, the winner of the match was the Limitless One, Keith Lee, complete with his next set of brand new music and another like gear change for Keith Lee. All that aside, what did you guys think of the outcome and the match as a whole? Really typical Randy Orton, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. It's just and it was an okay match. It was good. Again, another match where it served its purpose. I have to be honest. This point in the night, I was starting to get a bit. How long's a lot of this going to go on for, sort of thing, So, and again, it's unfortunate because that happened on the Orton match last time around as well. And I really like Orton. I really like Keith Lee, and I like what they did here. I was really shocked, about the whole. That they didn't go for a kind of like, once you said your prediction down, that they didn't go for a draw kind of scenario where they protected both of them, because it was weird for him to lose 2 in a row, especially when they built him so well going into SummerSlam, Randy Orton is. But yeah, it was good for what it was. I think you had the biggest things that I remember happening was Randy saying he was a legend killer and doing the chops to Keith Lee. Keith Lee did that big, like almost like a pounce where Randy flew outside the ring, which was cool. And then ended up on the Spirit Bomb, which looked devastating, and having Randy Orton look really, really confused, which was cool. But I just don't know where they're going to go with it, because is Randy really ready to play the whole "have I still got it" type character? I don't think so, because he's been built so strongly recently. So I'm not sure where they're going to go with that. So I was kind of shocked they did go with a definitive kind of end to the match. But I think again served its purpose, and it was pretty good. I think you needed to have, if you're going to have someone win it, it needed to be Keith Lee, just because it is debut time and people absolutely love him.
I thought this was an excellent match. I thought I think they've done 2 in a row now with Orton like this, where they've had him he's getting overly cocky about the RKO and the whole out of nowhere thing. Then he's getting hit by moves out of nowhere and losing. So it is one of those. I think it was also a little stat with this one. It's the first time Randy Orton since 2007 has lost 2 pay-per-view matches, single matches in a row.
Wow.
So it's a big deal. I think Keith Lee, obviously, he's someone who they were very high on last year, wasn't it, after Survivor Series? And obviously it's taken him a while to get this kind of debut on the main roster. And what a way to debut. They had a segment as well backstage on the night with JBL. Well, JBL being a JBL, basically. And I don't think that was scripted. I think that was just what you wanted to say.
JBL!
Yeah. I mean, it's just very much like they're doing this whole, like...
Sorry, that's always... I realise we've never done that on camera. So since me and Dan were like, I don't know, what, 15, 14, when he had his SmackDown title run, and he used to come out with a bullhorn on the thing. And you'd hear the cow in his music. So literally every time I'd knock for Dan, like before school or whatever, we'd both open the door and go, literally to this day, the first thing me and Dan do when we see each other is go, even if we don't do the noise, like Dan will pull up in his car, both just do that real quick. Yeah, that's literally been our hello for like, what, really 15 years?
What was he doing?
So it's good job JBL's not wrestling anymore or on commentary, because every time he was mentioned, we'd have to go.
Well, now I know.
Yeah. So if it ever happens again, sorry about that, Lucas.
So yeah, he was like, he had a segment backstage with JBL, like we just said, and he kind of gave the whole kind of like, well, if you can't beat Randy Orton in your first match, then like you're basically rubbish. Basically, that was the kind of the speech that he gave. And it's an interesting one, this one, because like I said, it was so weird, someone coming up and just kind of winning. But I think this is what they do now, it seems. And when you think that, Matt Riddle also won on this show, Big E also won. They seem to really want to be putting a lot of new stars forward. And I think,
Dominik Mysterio as well.
Yeah, which we'll get. I think they need to. That's something which obviously, hopefully, can continue. In terms of the match, I just felt I felt that Randy Orton, he's just so good at what he does, and just even just little things like the way he sold the pounce on the outside, like when he got pounce, and obviously we've seen better. Don't get me wrong, we've seen better ones, like the one he did with Adam Cole when he went obviously across the bloody the barricade and stuff. But this one, like Randy Orton, he's just so smooth at what he does, and he really got people behind Keith Lee. Like even when there's a little thing he did, and this is going to go probably over the head a lot of people. But Keith Lee, he did his crossbody, but he hit a bit low, and rather than obviously Orton selling like he's taking it to the chest, he sold the lower part of his body a little bit. And he did the whole like can't breathe thing, like, and the finish was just phenomenal. To be fair, the finishes on this show are actually quite good on the most part. With the Shayna's one obviously was excellent.
Yeah.
In his tag match, and the tag match coming up, we could talk about that finish was really good too, like the whole combination of moves and stuff. But this was really good too, of just seeing like RKO, and then straight up for a massive power bomb. And even in Lashley and Apollo Crews, he legit got Apollo up about 10 foot in the air for a choke slam.
That weird choke slam thing, it was so high and powerful that I wasn't sure if it was a choke slam. I literally wrote in my notes, like, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but I was like, choke slam thing? But I mean, I really enjoyed this, and I think that's how we kind of get. That's how you get a star over, hopefully. And Randy Orton obviously is, most likely one, still probably the biggest main roster name they've got, I guess. Along with a few others, but I think he's still one of those where it is when he loses, you are a bit like, did that just happen? Yeah.
Like that is a big deal now. People will talk about this match. And
it's like ruthless aggression era Cena, isn't it? Pretty much, with John Cena, like whenever he'd lose, it's like, oh my days, like this guy's going to be a star because they've just beaten Cena.
Yeah. I'm hoping we get to see more of this though. I think, the problem with this match being 10 minutes is that I want to see it for 20 minutes now. And hopefully that, I guess we are going to get a rematch. I don't think that's going to be it for Orton and Lee. I'm guessing as well, especially with Drew McIntyre potentially being off for a few more weeks or whatever. We're going to have to see it again at some point, I'm guessing. I think, I'm up for it. I want to see more.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much just echo what you guys said. I thought, it was a decent match. I loved the finish. It was just incredible, and it was one of those where I was expecting Orton to kick out, but it was a nice surprise sort of thing, not to see him not kick out. So
those free counts are the best. When that third hits, and you genuinely are like, oh, like those are the best. And I think this was definitely one of them.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like same levels as like the Brock Taker thing when the streak ended, but it was for me. It was kind of like I was like, did Randy Orton just lose?
Yeah. It's a weird, satisfying feeling, I think.
Yeah,
but the thing is, he's lost, but he's kept integrity. This is key. He's now also drew into Heath Lee, but he's not hit them with the RKO.
Yeah,
so,
I guess because that's what I was saying earlier. Like, I'm not sure what he could really play on as to why he lost. He can't do the sympathetic, have I lost my edge? But I guess you're right. If he's not hit the RKO, then that'll be it. That'll be his kind of asterisk of, well, you ain't felt this, so I'm just going to bring that, going to make sure I hit that earlier or something like that.
In a weird kind of way, it is almost at the point now where, even though he's a villain, and we shouldn't really want to root for it, the RKO is just one of the coolest finishes in history, let's be real. And it is one of those where we do want to see it, and we haven't seen it. We haven't had that fix. We haven't had that out of nowhere fix that he's capable of doing. There'd be some incredible ones that he could have done with Drew, for instance, with all basically Drew having a Claymore and all the kind of agile things he can do, and even like Keith Lee, the fact that he's happy to do moves top rope and stuff. There's so many big moments to come. I think Randy Orton, this is where obviously he has a Twitter game to rival many people's, I guess. But I think it is integral to the story that he's trying to tell here. So, and I've learned with Randy Orton that nothing little can be overlooked, and I do believe that we are going to see like an amazing RKO come like very soon, because that's
when it's hit, it's going to feel so rewarding. I think you're right, because even on that last match we were talking about in a SummerSlam review, how they weirdly didn't do either of their finishes, and it was strangely built around their finishes, it felt. So I think you're right. Not doing it then gave like a need to see the RKO more than ever, and then now not doing it again. So I think that's a good point, actually, that maybe that's what they're building to, that he just hits it and everybody loses their mind. Just to see even a regular RKO at the moment, you'd be like, way, so because it is so impactful anyway. But when you've been kind of deprived of an RKO, it's going to mean a lot more.
Indeed it is. So shall we get on to the semi-main event of the show then, which featured the Mysterios, Ray and Dominik, taking on Seth Rollins and his disciple Murphy. All four of us picked up a point in this one. We all said that Team Mysterio, Team 619 were going to come out victorious in this one. We were all correct. And what did you guys think of this?
Again, really good match, actually. Another one that served its purpose. Surely we just needed the Mysterios to come out on top after not doing it last time round. I think it's better for Dominik to win it with Ray, because it gives a kind of bit of a believability to it. Dominik's hood's gone, probably a wise decision, because how much it was getting in the way. However, I do think it could have been used in the entrance at least, and that's a bit of a shame as far as not using a mask just yet. But if rumours are to believe, like you're saying before, Dan, that he's going to get one, so we'll see. But another note on gear. I love when a tag team wear the same gear, so it's good to see Rollins and Murphy matching up as well. But as far as the action goes, Dominik, again, very impressive. Even more so, I think, because he was kind of used, obviously, in and out, so it just put a lot of shine on him. That's I think it was a springboard arm drag he did. Very Lucha-esque, you don't really see those kind of moves. The last time we saw something like that was probably when Sin Cara first came in, so they're moves that aren't really used in WWE. It really does make you think, he's using his Lucha heritage. It's little things like that really stick out for me for Dominik's performances. Then you had that kind of weird, that spot that Ray always seems to do now, that weird run up into like almost powerbomb position thing that he does. Ray was doing well. I think there was a bit of a sloppy one on the outside, the sunset flip into the barrier. But yeah, Ray did really well. All of them did really well. Even the story of making it look like Seth was disappointed in Murphy at the end was really good, because I've heard rumors about Seth's going to be going away, but I'm not sure if that's quite true. But if he's not or if he isn't, it was a good way to do it, because if they're not going to go with that group thing anymore, where they haven't got Authors of Pain and all that, then maybe it is time to just have Seth on his own, or just leave and then come back. I don't know. But I like the little friction between them, and Murphy not being the good disciple, basically, not being good enough for Seth's standards. And yeah, Dominik, I think he won with the frog splash, didn't he? So seems like that's going to be his finisher. Again, a lot of frog splash going on lately, but if anyone deserves to kind of pick up on that move, it's someone like Dominik. So yeah, and he performs it well. So yeah, decent match.
Yeah, I was overall happy with it. I think it was just a case of obviously getting Mysterio's the Mysterio's their win. I feel that Dominik, he's still very green, and it is one of those where, again, I think the no crowd thing's helping this, because I think that, especially from a smart wrestling crowd, like some of Dominik's kind of mistakes and stuff would be picked up upon, and obviously not in a good way. And obviously it's interesting that he's obviously skipped, and he's bypassed NXT, which I think a lot of people might obviously have something to say about. But I think end of the day, like, again, Raw and definitely needs a star. Obviously, we've mentioned the SmackDown guys like Matt Riddle and Big E, who obviously are getting pushed into positions, it seems. But Raw obviously has been very intent on, not really creating those single stars for a long time. And if it happens to be Dominik Mysterio, I think, we need to go with it. Enjoyable match. Obviously, Rollins and Ray just work really well together. You can't really fault much of what they do together. And obviously Murphy, sadly, he is just a fall guy at this point. Since Austin Theory, if anyone knows what Austin Theory is, can we start like an appeal or something? I don't know where he's gone.
He showed up on NXT.
Has he? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. He's back in NXT. I guess that's really where they want him to be anyway. But yeah, no, overall, good stuff, really.
Yeah, I think as you guys have covered pretty much, it was a decent match. Dominik obviously getting the win with the frog splash, and just looking forward now to where he goes from there, really. So yeah, I've not really got, to be fair, too much more to add with that one.
I think something I'll say though is I think hopefully this is the end of that storyline now, and this is another benefit of having the pay-per-view the way they've had it, that we've kind of skipped probably a good few weeks of Raw, hopefully. Sorry, we have to obviously wait and see what they do. But if it is ended, we have kind of skipped, an awkward period, about 3 weeks of Raws, of basically tag matches and, stuff keep happening to set up another match. Whereas this time we've just gone, the villain won at SummerSlam. The next week, the faces get their win back. Now can we won Big Bash Box, all done.
If you don't wrap this storyline up with a a payback, then you've missed the ball massively here. So I think, this is definitely the best time to end it.
I know, but we've had years of WrestleMania not even being in the end of feuds now, so it's
sure
I wouldn't put it past them,
but
to somehow still be on the card at the next pay-per-view, which I don't even think have they announced it?
Clash
it was
Champions,
Clash of Champions, but they put 2 dates though, didn't they? They advertised the 20th and then also advertised the 27th.
Yeah, which got me thinking that are they going to do the same thing next month, having 2 pay-per-views, perhaps, and that's why the dates have come up.
Yeah, but you'd think they'd put because I think they were the next time we're on pay-per-view sort of thing when they said them both. So they it did seem like more of a mistake than or maybe it is that they had 2 in mind and they're still thinking about that second one. But because why would you have a wrong graphic? I don't get how that was done. But yeah, maybe it is a 2-weeker, or was decided on, or they're not sure just yet. But they didn't say it's this date and this date. They just straight up, both of them went, it's the 20th, and later on went, it's the 27th. So
yeah, that's apparently. So I'm just actually looking into it now. So apparently, there was some confusion over the date. Confirmed date is indeed the 27th of September.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, the initial graphic that was made had the date as the 20th, which it was initially going to be, but was changed at least a couple of weeks back. So someone obviously didn't do
So they
their
just
job.
used the old graphic then. Yeah, because I knew that was the original date was the 20th.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so they have moved it then, 27th.
Yeah.
I guess
Strange.
with them not having to book arenas, though, I'm guessing like it's one of those where it's just like they can kind of have events when they want. They've got they don't have to book arenas, don't do a pay-per-view subscribe, distribution people. They've got no network. It's one of those where they want a pay-per-view to happen on like next week. They can have it, I guess, can't
They
they?
can do it, yeah.
Oh, they still have to pay for it though, like for their access and stuff and all that.
Haven't they got through the whole time though, or are they just using it for the day of the pay-per-view? Have they rented the entire month, or?
I think they've rented it all the way up until the end of October, but
Because I guess no one's going to use it, are they? So yeah.
No, but I think they said they're only booking it for a Monday night, a Friday night, and then a couple of Sundays. But then I think they said something about how much it's cost. I can't remember the exact figure, but it costs them obviously, I think, X amount of money each time they use it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
the company's got almost $500 million, almost $500 million dollars in cash reserves. So I think if Vince has to keep paying to use it just so he can promote a pay-per-view every week, I don't think he's going to care too much. Plus, he's got all that money he saved from firing Gallows and Anderson over the years, hasn't he? They're paying the Thunderdome. There we are. No, I think. I'm thinking there's 9 championships though, isn't there, on the main roster? 9 main roster championships.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably about that.
So, do we get a 9-match card?
Yeah,
possibly.
Yeah, with the pre-show, you definitely could. Even 2 on the pre-show.
Yeah, I guess so.
So.
There were 8, weren't there? There were 8 last night, wasn't there? So, to be fair, they could do. Especially if they're going to throw like 5-10 minute matches. But, okay.
So yeah, anyway, talking of championships, shall we get into the main event of the night, which was the no-holds-barred match for the Universal Championship, which was the triple threat match between The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns. Now, myself, Rob and Lucas all said that Roman Reigns was going to win. Rob said to us as well that he thought Roman was going to pin Braun. Scott, you went with a Bray Wyatt retention. So, what did we think of Roman Reigns adding a shiny new championship to his shiny new teeth and his shiny-headed new manager?
Triple shine. I just think the reason why I went with Braun is because with Bray is I thought they can't possibly take the title off him after a week. But like we were talking about earlier, if you're going to do these things, do them when there's no fans there. It's one of the ones where they definitely shouldn't have done it in front of a crowd. And I don't think they should have done it here, to be honest. I don't think he should have won the title last week. This is why I was like, no, because even when I sent my predictions through and you guys had all done that, and I was like, oh no, what have I done? Because am I the only one that thinks Bray's keeping it? Because there was 2 sides of it. I was like, why is Roman coming back and why has he got this thing with Heyman without being explained? If it's not going to pay off at the pay-per-view, something's got to give. So I thought, he is going to win it. But then the other side of me was like, no, but they've done Bray bad so much. They can't do a week. Why'd they change the title? Then I was thinking, it's because he speared Bray, but he also went after Braun. He could have just speared Braun, and then done it in reverse. There was no reason to change the title holder. So
I think it's to go from Strowman. I think they were billing as the heel, so then it's to get it from the heel onto the Fiend, who they're positioning as a face.
He's not really a face, though, is he? It's so confusing.
So apparently, according to the fans that were at the Thunderdome, at SummerSlam, they were telling them to boo Strowman and cheer the Fiend. So, read into that what you will.
Yeah, I just felt like that was because of the storyline, the whole Braun being kind of swampified. But anyway,
swampified.
As far as the match goes, Braun's ambush, it was cool. The way they did it was great. I didn't want Braun to lose the title, Bray to lose. I keep mixing those guys up. Didn't want Bray to lose the title, but it's another one of those things where I didn't want it booked this way. But when I saw it, I thought that was really well done. All right, the superplex thing, the ring exploding, we need to stop with that. It looks great, but at least, I don't know, surely there's another move they could do, even a Russian leg sweep from the top rope, something, so it's not the same spot every single time that we've seen it.
The thing is, it's getting obvious now because, why would you suddenly go from having the LED post to just the standard ring posts, and then it's weird. Like I randomly noticed these things, but I noticed on the ring post that actually like did cave in. It was like you could see that there was like a little yellow like mechanism that was
Really?
on the side of the thing, and I thought, oh, maybe it's like for like some fireworks or something to go off. But then I'm like, no. As soon as I saw him go to the top rope, I'm like,
You saw it
this ring's exploding. Like this ring is imploding.
See, I didn't see that, but yeah, it's one of those things where if you have such a shiny, great production, then you need to hide when you're going to do these things a bit better, because yeah, like you say, if they change the ring post and stuff, then it kind of makes it obvious. Especially with the new shiny Thunderdome, you can't have things looking out of place, you know. So,
yeah.
but yeah,
And
again, it's the move that annoys me, because it's the exact same spot.
Yeah, and it's like, well, if it makes me think as well. Okay, so if it can withstand more than that, if it can withstand, say, like Towers of Doom, when you've got like more people that are probably going to weigh significantly more than just two guys coming off the top rope,
or
why
Royal
is the
Rumble.
ring? Yeah, why is the ring always imploding when it's just two essentially
guys,
fat guys that are like coming off the top rope? Because it's like what. I thought as well the referee sold it like a bloody $1 million. So the way,
It's Little Nate's though, isn't it?
Little Nate literally like he bumped like Ric Flair as well. And like the whole like Roman coming in at the end thing, it's like that would have been the perfect moment just for like Otis just to like come in, be like, you know what?
I was actually thinking there might be something about Otis here.
Because I mean the way you got to look at it as well is like I think they played it up during the night as well, which was pretty cool. With like, oh, Roman's not actually signed the contract, and then having him come out after they'd basically just destroyed each other, sign the contract, and come down to the ring. I thought they did that bit pretty well. But yeah, I mean it is strange the whole like Roman aligning with Heyman thing, but Roman's never been the best on the mic. Like he's been okay. He's never been the best on the mic. I think like the whole Heyman thing will help him. And I think obviously for me picking him to win, I was kind of in the same boat as Rob. It's like, okay, if he's going to win it, he's definitely pinning Braun. I don't think there was, and no way was the Fiend getting pinned here.
Then the Fiend didn't take the title. That's the thing, like that's what's really thrown me off. But again, other than that, like the way they did it was really good. Like I say, the whole contract thing, it kind of made like what was he waiting for? People kind of been saying, oh, maybe he was waiting. The contract was I can join at any point, which means the contract was changed, which means they signed, the other two signed a contract that's no longer valid. So none of that made any sense as far as not signing it. I think it was more of a, it's a play, to get in there last minute. I really enjoyed even the visual of him being so cocky, signing it, throwing it, that was really cool. And credit to the other two, like they really took it out of each other. They made it believable that they had gone through a lot. You had the table spot, getting the mallet out, and the weird Alexa Bliss thing, which I thought was going to play more of a part. I thought she was going to come down or something. And then, I mean, as much as I don't like the superplex, it's a good way to be like, look at the carnage, and now he's coming out. He felt very much like Seth Rollins, the kind of thing Rollins would do, or Edge, Ultimate Opportunist kind of thing, So this whole heel Roman thing, I think, is interesting. It's got a few places to go. But I started to think that it was going to come out that Heyman was playing Roman. He was actually trying to get Brock close, or maybe they could still go this way, but Roman isn't actually heel either. He was playing Heyman, knowing that Heyman was playing him, is how I thought this might start going down, because I don't know what they're going to do with those two guys together. But we'll see. I mean, I can't say, that I didn't enjoy it, because I really did.
Yeah, I like this. I also like the fact that it was like only about 10 minutes long. I felt that they need these two more of these matches where there's so much going on and like you can get so involved with it, and like it was like I believe the story of what happened. Obviously, WWE, they like making and adding rules to matches all the time, so I'm kind of past it nowadays. Like when you see DQs in tag matches where the legal person gets hit or whatever it is. But I think ultimately, the only reason I can think they put the title on the Fiend is pub quiz trivia. Like, essentially, like, it is going to be, I think, a few years' time where people are going to just assume that reign never happened. And because, obviously, I think the Universal title, like, because obviously been so dominated by, obviously, Lesnar over the years. You know, it has got to the point where there's no, like, apart from Lesnar, I think, and then someone else, I think. I mean, there's only 2 people that held it more than like once. So I think it is one of those where it's a bit like they just want people to start getting the reins up a bit, the title reins up a bit, and so it's just like, okay, we'll do it. And having no crowd, like, it means they can do that.
Yeah.
I think as well that Reigns with Heyman is interesting because there's a lot of directions it could go in, and I think we're still going to lead into Reigns and Goldberg though somehow, or something like, because I only because I watched it recently, and we talked about earlier, we spoke about Survivor Series 2002 earlier. Heyman is playing Reigns to get Lesnar back in the picture, and they're going to set up Reigns with Heyman against Lesnar, and Heyman's obviously going to turn on Reigns and give the belt back to Lesnar.
So I think that is probably the best way to do it, but then that leaves, in that sense, that's entertaining, but it leaves Reigns as a heel and as being fooled. That's why I have that feeling of that is what Heyman's doing, but Reigns knows it, and Reigns playing him as well. That's the only way I can see getting out of it and keeping Reigns good, because at the end of it, if Reigns is a heel, has it sympathetic that Heyman's done this? I think the payoff of Heyman doing that, like he did with the Big Show and Brock, is great, but it's detrimental to Reigns' heel run. So I think he has to become face at the end of it.
Yeah, you see, this is what I think. I think they're using this as a reason to get Reigns a better reaction, like when he eventually does end this. That's how I feel anyway. I feel that's why I feel it's going to go either down the Goldberg line, and everyone hates Goldberg, like fans hate Goldberg, or the Lesnar line. And obviously Lesnar's got more love than Goldberg, but there is still that kind of majority of people are a bit like, well, he's a part-timer. I feel that if they were to do it correctly, and this is where, again, it's like, are they waiting for fans for this? Like, they need fans, because the problem they're going to have, because I think now with obviously no fans, the biggest problem is you don't really know how people are being received. Like, even like Apollo Crews, like, if there were fans, like, would they have got behind his title reign? Like, because someone who
he's probably got more time. Weirdly enough, he probably got more time because he didn't have the fans, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But then, but if there were fans, people would be like, well, you wasn't on television for a year. Like, we don't know who you are. Like, we're not going to just suddenly cheer you. Despite him being obviously very, very good. And same thing here, like, will fans, if there were fans there last night, would they be booing Reigns because he's with Heyman, or just booing Reigns because they like to boo Roman Reigns?
I think they're cheering him. I think a lot of us have already turned into, I love Reigns now. No, he's a heel.
Well, yeah, I think having Strowman as champion made us realise that, we need Roman Reigns, I think, because sadly Strowman's reign, obviously, not the best, really. But no, I enjoyed this match, though, and there's ways that it can go, obviously, forward from this. I think we are getting into the stage now, I guess, with Survivor Series coming up and Rumble. It is coming up. We have to admit, it is, like, in a weird way, we're closer to the Royal Rumble happening than we are from WrestleMania has happened. So it's like, we are getting to the phase now where big matches are going to have to start getting built. Yeah. It's a case of who they're built with. Are the part-timers going to come back with no crowds? Or is it going to be Reigns and The Fiend? I'm assuming the Reigns and The Fiend are going to have a Hell in a Cell match. I think that has to happen. If that doesn't happen, that's very daft.
Yeah.
But
still a while off though, and no title. It's still a while away and no title. But then maybe that's what they do. They put the Alexa thing into it, and it becomes about Alexa more.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
And Reigns goes off with the title somewhere else by then.
Yeah, but I enjoyed it. Overall solid pay-per-view.
I think every match just did what it needed to do, and it was it was a good show.
Yeah,
they really did well, like Dan said earlier, for the whole 1 week turnaround. They did exactly what it needed to do, so I was pleased with it.
Indeed. So there we have it. That is the final say, really, on WWE's Payback pay-per-view. The pay-per-view, obviously, with the 1 week build. But what has it done, boys, to the standings, to the table after this one? Obviously, Scott rubbing his hands together, knows that knows something. So, Lucas, finally, in double figures, you move up to 15 points, sitting in fourth place. See, I screwed myself over, boys. I would have been sitting in joint second with Rob, but my incorrect pick on the Keith Lee Randy Orton match means I drop into 3rd place with 20 points. Rob sitting just above me on 21, and Scott leading the way with 23. We're going to have to start getting your predictions first and then like all working around them. So
I usually do give them first, I'm sure.
Yeah,
That's the only reason why you're catching up anyway, mate. Come on. You're just trying to not make it too obvious.
Been picking some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you have it, guys. That was our review of Payback 2020. If you like what you see, just obviously keep on following us. Like, share, subscribe. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram.
All that good stuff.
MySpace, wherever. Yeah, just follow us. Just follow us on all the social media platforms. Obviously, check out this video on YouTube. You can check out more videos on YouTube. We will be back soonish with our predictions for Clash of Champions. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you soon. See you later.
We've got a lot more wrestling content coming this year as well, guys, so please subscribe to Rebellious Noise on YouTube, check out rebnoise.com, and check out our podcast, Talking Beans, where we'll be talking about the main wrestling shows as we do throughout the year.